Howdy, my name is Abby Aarons and I'm the coordinator for Outdoor Adventures at the Texas A&M Student Rec Center. As the weather begins to get a little cooler and more people go out camping, I wanted to give y'all a couple tips and tricks that I've learned from my camping experience on how to sleep warm while camping. In case this is your first camping trip you've ever been on and you're worried about being cold, or if you've had lots of camping experience and have always struggled with this issue. So here are a few tips and tricks that I've learned over my camping experience years. So the first step is wearing the right quality of layers and the right number of layers. So a lot of times when people think that they need to stay warm while they're sleeping on a camping trip, they think they need to wear as many layers as possible to stay warm. And this is not always as helpful as you might think. Your body uses up energy to release heat. And your goal is to make this heat release work to your advantage. So if you're wearing a lot of layers of clothing, typically it's not too difficult and it's a pretty quick process to heat up each layer after layer. But once that last layer becomes warm, your body's still trying to warm up the things around it, so it starts to heat up the air around that last layer. And if you're outside in a tent or in a really large room, your body can never stop working to heat up the things around it because that air is constantly moving and you constantly have to keep it warm. So you're ultimately working harder than you should because you're wearing so many layers of clothing that aren't insulating the air between that last layer and your body. If you have some airspace in between each layer, the air acts as another insulating layer that gets trapped between that layer of clothing and your body, keeping you much warmer for much longer and allowing your body to work less hard in order to keep you warm. So all that goes to say that adding more layers does not always equal more warmth. And instead, you will most likely want to wear fewer layers, but make sure they are quality layers. That goes into my second point, in that you want the layers around your body to be really good at trapping that air around your body, so that once your body warms it up, it stays there and your body doesn't have to continue heating up new air. Layers that are good for this include down, so jackets or sleeping bags that have down feathers in them, wool, and some synthetic fabrics. Wool and synthetic fabrics are usually better because they don't retain as much moisture as other fabrics like cotton do, so they will not cool you down even more due to the absorption of moisture. For example, if you have ever gone on a run in the summer heat in Texas, you end up drenching your clothing, of course. If you then go inside into the air conditioning, after a while you start to shiver because your clothing has retained the moisture from your sweat and this keeps you cool. So obviously, if this is what's happening to you when you're outside and trying to sleep warm while camping, this is the opposite of what you want to happen. Wool and synthetic fabrics are great at not absorbing that water, so ultimately it's going to keep you a little warmer than those fabrics that do absorb moisture. Another helpful pointer is to go to the bathroom right before you get in your tent and sleeping bag for the night. This isn't because it's helpful in preventing you from having to go in the middle of the night when you're cold and you don't want to leave your tent. Instead, it's because when you have solids and fluids inside your body's trying to keep those things there, so it's using up that energy that it could be using to release heat, and it's also trying to keep the heat on those things to match your internal temperature. So it's preventing the body from moving that heat and directing it elsewhere in your body to keep you warm. So even though you may have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and you think it's more productive to stay in your tent and sleeping bag and just hold it until the morning, you're better off in the long run just getting up and going to the bathroom so that you can be more warm the remainder of the night. Another trick that keeps you warmer while you sleep while camping is to eat something right before you go to bed, preferably something high in sugar like a small candy bar or granola bar. Like I mentioned earlier, your body generates heat when it is working hard and using energy. If you give your body something to do, like digest some food, it will be generating heat, which is released from your body, and if you have good and loose insulating layers, the heat will be trapped in between that layer and your body, which keeps you warm. All right, there's something else I want to mention. A lot of people have a misconception that their head and their feet release more heat than the rest of their body. This actually isn't true because wherever you have skin on your body is where heat can be released. So I think this misunderstanding may have come about because your head and your feet are typically the things that are least frequently covered by clothing, whereas the rest of your body is covered almost all the time. So it's not actually that your head or your feet release more heat than the rest of your body, it's just the place that's not covered already with clothing, so it allows more heat to be released. So if you want to stay warm while you're sleeping, it's helpful to wear a beanie or something else that'll cover your head while you sleep. And remember, you want it to be good quality layers, so wool, synthetic fabrics, or something other than that, and socks. So wool socks, something that's going to be warm and comfortable. One last strategy that I wanted to teach you guys before we sign off is that if you boil some water right before you turn in for the night and pour it into a water bottle, you can use that as like a little heating pad and place it at the bottom of your sleeping bag. But something important that might be a good trick is to wrap that water bottle in a sock, an extra sock that you're not going to be wearing, because it'll prevent you from burning your skin if you put it in your sleeping bag and it's too hot to touch. So a helpful tip is to put the sock on before you put the water into the water bottle. But this will help keep you warm in addition to the heat that your body's generating inside your sleeping bag. So it's going to ultimately warm you up a little quicker than just using your own body heat. These are just a few suggestions on how to sleep warm while you're camping. So you can try implementing a few of these strategies or maybe all of them on your next camping trip and see what works for you. A lot of times people will establish a sleeping routine that they've discovered works for them, and they do it every single time they camp because they know it works. If you're nervous about what to pack or are worried that you don't have the right method established before you leave for your camping trip, you can always test out a couple different methods in your backyard a couple nights before you leave for your camping trip and just discover what works well for you and what did not work well. So I just want to say thanks for listening and happy and warm camping.